Thank you. Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the New Forest. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at a place called Stoney Cross, which is about 4 miles to the northwest of Lyndhurst. And we're going to be doing a roughly 3-mile circular route that's going to take in some open heathland, the wonderful OCKNELL Enclosure woodland, and a few other interesting things along the way. Now in previous videos we did a walk from Janesmore Pond in the east, Cadman's Pool in the north, OCKNELL Pond in the west, and Andrews Mere in the south. So this walk is the bit in the middle. So do join us. Well, I've parked my car at the Forestry Commission car park at Stoney Cross Plain. We're going to be making our way westwards across quite a large area of open heathland. Now the site here was once an RAF Airfield back in World War II. That's long gone now. In fact, last year I came here and did a little 6-minute video, no commentary, just music and text and some video footage, just giving a bit of history behind the airfield. So I won't go into any more detail about that today. I'll put a link up towards the end. But there is a little information board at the car park. I'll put that up on screen, and then if you want to read it you can just freeze the screen. And in fact the car park is based on one of the old concrete aircraft dispersal areas where they used to store aircraft when they weren't being used. Anyway, let's start heading westwards. Just making my way across the plain. As I said, it is very open, mainly just gorse and grass and the odd little bit of heather. If I just pan round to show you, I'm filming towards the end of November, so the ponies that are out here have all got their shaggy winter coats on. You can still just about make out where the 3 runways were here, and indeed the main runway, which is about 2,000 yards long, still can be made out today. One of the minor roads uses part of it, and you can still make out little bits of evidence. Some of the old runway signal lights can be seen very close to the road, and it can get quite windy up here because it is so open. And in fact we're very close to the highest point in the New Forest. It's about 800 yards or so, perhaps a little bit longer, to my north, and the predominant wind round here is from the southwest, and if I point the camera, that's sort of in that direction, and there's not a lot of natural barrier between here and the sea. It's a lovely day to be out.
Yeah, it is.
Enjoy your ride.
Thank you.
Well, I've just come off the plain for a tiny little detour to show you this stream. It's actually the source, or one of the sources, of the Highland Water. This comes off the plain obviously, and there's another couple of little streams further along the ridge as well, and then those 3 streams converge about half a mile or so further downstream, and they all become the Highland Water. which is a stream that goes south through the forest, and then it well, eventually joins up with the Fletcher's Water and then Ober Water just near Brockenhurst, a place called Boulderford Bridge, and then for the remaining 7 miles it's known as the Lymington River. It flows out to the sea at Lymington. So I love coming to places like this where you see the source and you wonder, you know, the journey that water's going to make over the next 13 miles or so. The other reason I wanted to come here, I've been reading a book recently, it's called, well, Cuckoo Hill, the Book of Goarly by Hayward Sumner. He was a well-known local historian, artist and archaeologist in the early 1900s. Funnily enough, the book hasn't got a great deal to do about Goarly, it's more about the New Forest. Anyway, cut a long story short, in that book there are a number of paintings and watercolours by Sumner, and he did one, and I'm pretty sure it was here on OCKNELL Plain, or looking across OCKNELL Plain, and certainly looking down the stream, and that's the OCKNELL Enclosure in the far distance, which is where we're eventually going to make our way. I'd like to think that this is the point from where he actually did that painting. But it's a lovely book if you do get a chance to read it. I think it's only about £4 or so off eBay at the moment. Well, I've just popped over the other side of the road that used to be that main runway, and you can probably hear a tractor behind me, just behind this gorse. And the authorities from time to time will cut back a fair bit of the gorse because it can become a bit of a thug. And here's a chap in his tractor doing that. And you can see a few ponies making good use of the chopped up bits of gorse. They're thoroughly enjoying it, aren't they? Oh, a powerful bit of machinery, that's for sure. Well, I've now gone as far west as I'm going to go across the plain. I'm going to change direction and head south towards the OCKNELL Enclosure. Before I do, just come across this little open area here. Now, I mentioned right at the start that I'd parked my car on one of the concrete dispersal pans. Well, this was the location of one of the pans to the west, but they've actually taken up the concrete. But having said that, you can still make out the little ditch and bank you see along there, and make out that almost circular shape of the pan. But it's interesting that after all these years nothing seems to want to grow back. It's just still grass. I expect that's got something to do with some chemical perhaps, or the makeup of the concrete that doesn't make it attractive to the rest of the vegetation. Well, I was just walking away from that little area where the dispersal pan was, and I just spotted something in the undergrowth, so I thought I'd explore. So I've come down into this little ravine, or gully I suppose you'd call it, and look what we've got here. I think this is basically the concrete that was ripped up, and yes, you can see the old metal rings. These were the tie down rings that used to tie the aircraft down to. I don't know what that is. That looks like an old prop shaft for a motor vehicle by the looks of things. Probably been dumped here, but it's fascinating. Again, there's more of those iron hoops or metal hoops. A little bit of history tucked away that'll probably get forgotten about for years. And you know, even more down there. Well, you never know what you're going to find out in the forest, do you? Well, just before we head into the deep woods, I thought we'd say hello again to the OCKNELL Pond. Now we did come here back in August. We did a walk that started from here and went sort of westwards. The difference was then it was completely bone dry. In fact, we were able to walk right across it. But as you can see now, we've had a fair bit of rain over the last few months, and it's now back to being full, which will please all the ponies around here. Well, of course, the pond does have a legend attached to it. Not far from here is the Rufus Stone, where William Rufus was allegedly killed or murdered by Sir Walter Tyrrell. And Sir Walter escaped from the scene, past this very pond, and he stopped to wash his hands in the water to get rid of all the blood. And the legend is that on the anniversary of Rufus's death, which was in August, the water is supposed to go completely red. Only trouble is, as I found out when I came in August, the pond is always bone dry, so it does sort of make the story a little bit unbelievable. But there we go, a legend is a legend. We're now just about to go into the OCKNELL enclosure, and I think this is one of my favourite bits of woodland in the whole forest. It's about 99 hectares in total, and it was established between 1768 and 1775, and it was planted with oak and beech, although there were quite a lot of old trees here already. But what's slightly unusual about this particular enclosure is that when it was thrown open, i.e. all the fencing removed in about 1815, it was effectively abandoned. You know, none of the trees have ever been cut down here, and so what you've got here is a really lovely ancient, almost untouched bit of woodland. Let's go and have a look. Here we have some artist bracket fungi. And the reason they're called artist bracket is that folk will actually get an implement and sort of carve a drawing in the white fleshy bit underneath, and then when they take the fungi off and it eventually dies, the drawing sort of dries up and remains in place, hence the name artist bracket. Got some more around here as well, and they're quite solid, and obviously they grow layers each year, but the underneath is quite a little bit softer. Oh, look at this wonderful old oak. Oh, I love these. You have to just admire something that old and just pay your respect as you go by it. I don't know, it may have been pollarded, which might help us date it. Pollarding is where they would cut the trees back about 1.5 meters up to create more branches. But there was an Act of Parliament, 1698 I think it was, and it basically made pollarding of trees illegal because they wanted to have more trees with single thick trunks and branches for ships. Not always a reliable guide, because some trees were still pollarded after then, but I say, can you guess how many centuries old that must be? I love it in here. I mean, we're coming at a great time of year. I know all the leaves have now fallen, so we haven't got any of that autumnal colour, but it does mean that the ground has got this spongy carpet of brown and yellow, which adds to the atmosphere. Well, I know a few people do follow these walks and do them after they've seen the video. This is as far south as we're coming, just about to go over a little bridge over, well, Highland Water. It's where those three little streams have now converged into the one. and as you can see, it's already becoming quite a substantial stream even this early on. Now to my right, that is the start of a bit of woodland known as Boulderwood Walk, but we're going to carry on now heading eastwards. You can just about hear the road of the A31, a busy dual carriageway that goes through the New Forest. Again, that's on the right hand side. You just make it out. And on the left hand side, this is a little bit of the enclosure that was never actually planted up. So it's just got holly and dyed back heather now. I just spotted another fungi here on this little, what remains of a silver birch, and it actually is called a birch polypore. They only tend to grow on birch trees, and a very distinctive sort of leathery top and a horseshoe shape to it. But I was reading in a book the other day, if you cut yourself out in the forest and you want to stop the bleeding, apparently you can cut very fine strips of the underneath and create a sort of elastic plaster, I suppose, and it has antiseptic qualities. Not that I've tried it, mind. I've just crossed another little bridge, just come off the path for a second and fought my way through some undergrowth. I feel like David Attenborough in the middle of an Amazonian jungle, because look at this. I'm guessing this little bit of area here doesn't get any sunlight and very rarely dries out. Look at the green moss that's covered all over that tree, and up here, look, there's fern growing out of the moss and the bark. I forget what that's called. And then just panning around here, there's another little stream. I guess this must be another little tributary of the Highland Water that I'd forgotten about. That is a very sweet little waterfall, which I can just about make out through there. Isn't that pretty? Right, we're on the homeward leg now, and this is where normally a whippet comes in quite handy to pull you up the hill. Let's see if he doesn't stop to see if there's any blackberries. The blackberries have gone a long time ago, Logan. Come on, up we go. Pull your dad up, that's it. Kick on. Oh, yeah, just made it. Right, now we've got some concrete here, and this is the sort of, get my bearings right, the southeast area of where the airfield was. And again, more of these concrete aircraft dispersal areas, and this little bit of area is now a campsite, although like a lot of campsites in the New Forest this year, because of the COVID situation, it's closed and has been all summer. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up or a like, and do make a comment. And as I always say, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, then that way hopefully you'll be able to join us for another walk sometime in the future. Thank you to everybody that has subscribed. We're well over 600 subscribers now, so that's really great, and thank you for watching. We've got some soup in the car, not too far to go for that. I think we're going to be all right. It's getting a little bit cloudy now, but we've had a super walk today. Temperatures just have been that sort of autumnal feel to it, hasn't been that muddy, and I love going through those woods. They're quite magical. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Yeah, good boy, aren't you?